Hello, good morning, afternoon, or night, depending on where you might be around the world. On behalf of EMD International, I would like to welcome you all to today's webinar, an introduction to the new EMD WRF mesoscale datasets and the windPROSPECTING portal. I am Nathan Curry from EMD International, and I will be the moderator for today. Your presenters, both of whom are from EMD International, will be Lasse Svenningsson, the R&D manager, and Morten Dursen, the consultancy department manager and the one responsible for the high-end performance cluster. The presentation should take roughly about 30 minutes, and there will be a short question and answer session at the end, followed by a very brief survey, during which you will be able to request a 1-week free access to any one of the pre-run data sets in Europe, Middle East, South Africa, South Korea, or India. I also must mention it is flu season here in Denmark, and 2 of the 3 of us have been hit this week, so we apologize for our very raspy voices. We will do our best to enunciate and speak slowly so that you can understand us with our very flu-ridden voices. So we ask that you do submit your questions in writing in the questions section to the bottom of your GoTo interface. If you've never used GoTo before, you can expand the question section by clicking on the little plus symbol just to the left of the word questions, and then type your question there in the text window that appears below it. Questions will be answered during the Q&A session at the end. Questions will not be accepted once the Q&A session has begun. However, if we don't get your question, don't worry. We will be sending out a link to the Q&A summary of every question submitted, as well as the recording link, or the link to the recording of this webinar to all attendees within the next 24 hours. And so now I will hand you over to Morten Dursen for the presentation on EMD WRF mesoscale data sets. So please take it away, Morten.
Thanks, Nathan. So yeah, I'm the one that also is hit by the flu. So sorry about my voice, but I'm going to talk to you about this the mesoscale data services that we provide here at EMD. But before I get started, say why are we talking so much about these mesoscale data? It's of course because they are useful in a very wide range of applications, also for us as wind turbine engineers. So there's a lot of user scenarios, and you guys out there, typically I would guess you will be working within one of or more of these user scenarios. It's very useful for site hunting, spatial planning procedures like using the data in a GIS study, planning and measurement campaigns, the energy yield assessments, measure, correlate, predict methods, wind resource mapping, and also the new features that we have now with us from WindPro 2.9 and 3, the downscaling procedure, time series calculations where you actually use the long-term reference time series as a virtual MetMast, but also using the data in wind turbine operational performance analysis. So all this sort of a common ground for this is like analysis that benefit from a consistent long-term reference data, either as time series or as spatial data. At EMD, we have 3 different distinct services for the reference or for the mesoscale data. The first one here is the pre-run data sets that is delivered as a subscription service, and we have now 5 different areas where you can access all time series data within these regions, and also the spatial data is India, South Africa, South Korea, Middle East, and Europe. The second service that we provide is a point-wise setup where you actually request a time series data for any part of the world. So typically you'll be using this if you're outside any of these pre-run areas. And the last and the newest thing is that you can request your own private data set for any part of the world. So you actually get your own pre-run data set that's only available for your company. You'll get high resolution time series and the spatial data available within that region. Right now, I'll focus on the first here, the pre-run data sets. So, and this is actually very popular for our WindPro and EMD customers here. We have more than 100 companies using these data now, and more than 1,000 downloads per month. It's the second most popular reference wind data set that we have. The most popular one is the Mirror One data, but that's going to be discontinued here later this year, is our expectation. Okay, the pre-run data sets. We have the map of a section of the world here. We have a section here, Europe, Middle East, which actually is one data set, but it consists of two individual domains. We have South Africa, part of India, and South Korea. The model setup is a 20-year setup with 3 kilometer spatial resolution, and you get both the spatial data and you also get the time series data as hourly data. So it's a pre-run data set within these regions here, in these domains. And sort of the data that we use for driving these are error interim data. There's also the terrain data, and for this European section here, we use the USGS terrain data, but for the newer data sets, we use the globe cover data. We update the data according to error interim availability, and it'll be typically with a 2 to 3 month of delay. A unique feature with us and using these data within WindPro is actually when you download the data as time series, then you also get the mesoterrain available. So you can use these data directly for downscaling purposes and also to set up some more advanced time series calculations. So this is a subject for one of the other webinars that's also available on our homepage. The price is very affordable. 1,500 euros for the large domains, Europe, Middle East, and 1,000 euros as a yearly subscription fee for the smaller domains. So, so if you have your main bulk of your projects within one of these areas, this is for sure the most affordable solution for you. What's available? We have now the spatial distribution of a number of the climatic parameters available in windPROSPECTING. It's a new portal, and my good colleague Lasse will be going through that portal in a few minutes. We also have the time series available, distributed directly from within WindPro, and you see here I've dumped a note in the Middle East dataset where you can see the mean wind speed, wind direction, and temperature in this graph here. But that's not all. You actually get access to more than 40 parameters. So when we deliver these data to you, you have the option of not only having the winds, but also temperatures, pressure, parameters for atmospheric stability, humidity, precipitation, cloud water content, radiation, heat flux, and turbulence, and so on. So there's quite a lot of data. So if you want to take this further in your own modeling, then you also have that option. Is it any good, the data that we provide? When we release a data set, we always quality assured ourselves, take a number of masts within the domain, and then compare it to the model data. So when this is a case for the EMD WRF Middle East dataset, where we have a significant number of masts, and see if we compare those masts to the mirror dataset, you'll end up with a correlation of about 0.61. Then the standard deviation of these, the correlation is 0.17. If you use the pre-run dataset, then you'll have a significant higher correlation, 0.76 in average, and the standard deviation is almost halved. So we are quite happy with this setup, and for sure it's a significant improvement over the mirror data. You shouldn't only trust our analysis, you should also do it yourself, and also read what other good colleagues from the community has made. And if you do that, and maybe you even publish something in a VIA conference or at another conference, then we'll be happy to share your publication with the other users. And we actually maintain this benchmark wiki page where we add the link, so it's available for all the users of the dataset. So we want to share this as much as possible. If you want to read more about the actual data documentation, there's also a wiki page here, help.emd.dk, where you can actually click into each of these links, and it'll provide you with some more details on the actual setup and the domain distribution and so on. So the next option that I'm going through is the on-demand pointwise data sets. So in this case, we actually execute the WRF model for a particular very limited area, and it's fully automatic, and it's ordered directly from within WindPro based on meso credits. So the use case is like this: if you have the most of your wind farm projects outside these pre-run regions, then it'll be an attractive option for you. Since it's an on-demand service, then you need to wait for the cluster to actually execute the model and to calculate all the results, and it'll take some time, up to maybe 1 day or a little more. You can choose yourself whether you want to have the modeling driven by either the error interim data or the mirror data. The terrain data in this case will be the globe covered data. The price is like this, that we have 1 month equals sort of 1 meso credit, and 1 credits, the default price of that is €2 per credit. So 1 year data will cost you 24 euros, and 10 years of data will cost you 204. There's a discount option also if you buy more credits. Again, we deliver also not only the time series data, but also the meso terrain. So you'll still be able to run the downscaling procedure with your WindPro setup if you want to. The last, a new option is also to have your own private spatial data set here. So in this case, we deliver the time series data and the spatial data from either windPROSPECTING and WindPro. So you can request a quotation directly from within windPROSPECTING. So the setup is like this. If you have an area here now, it's in the easterly part of Brazil, where I have drawn this small red square. So you can simply draw that on a map, and then you can choose whether you want to have the model driven by the error interim or the mirror data, and then this setup will actually execute on the server, and you'll get the data. But still, we need to have do some manual setup and ensure that this is good, because it's over a larger area. So the price is based on a quote that we'll provide to you. Again, we'll still deliver the meso terrains for the downscaling, so you can use the same in the same framework, and the spatial data will be provided in the windPROSPECTING framework. So yeah. I'll give the word now back to you, Nathan, and I guess that Lasse will take over on presenting the windPROSPECTING platform.
Thank you very much. Excuse me. Thank you very much, Morten. Again, thank you for bearing with us on our very flu-induced voices. So again, please submit your questions in the questions section of the GoTo interface. And he will review the questions that have been submitted so far for his section while Lasse presents. And now I will hand you over to Lasse Svenningsson for his presentation on the windPROSPECTING portal. Please take it away, Lasse.
Thank you, Nathan, and thank you everybody for attending this webinar. So what I'm going to talk about today is our little new tool, which we call windPROSPECTING. So I'm going to talk about what it is, and I'm going to explain how you can access it, and I'm going to spend a little more time on what it can do for you. So first, windPROSPECTING, it's a web portal that we've made for you to be able to access your EMD mesoscale data in a different way. So in WindPro, you can access the time series for single grid positions, whereas in windPROSPECTING you can visualize the full spatial domain of the data. And this is also the reason why it runs in a separate tool, which is in a browser, because there are, you could say WindPro is not suited for these large areas, and also it's a very vast amount of data that needs to be visualized. And by having the full visualization of the spatial domain, this can provide a lot of very nice information which can help you find areas of high wind resource and use that in site prospecting. And this is why we call the tool wind prospecting. So how can you access wind prospecting? Well, first of all, it's important for you to know that this is something that we provide to you for free if you have a subscription to one of our mesoscale datasets, or if you buy your own custom spatial dataset. So you need a subscription to a dataset, to a mesoscale dataset, and you need a valid service to your to WindPro. And then you can simply start the wind prospecting from within WindPro. So this will automatically check that you have a license and a subscription to your mesoscale data. So you simply click that from the data menu in WindPro, and it'll open your default browser and check your license status. So what can it do for you? Well, let's have a look and try it out in WindPro. So hopefully by now you see just a random WindPro project on my screen. And let's first have a look at what I have of data subscriptions, so that you can see that in this window called Data and Models, and you can see that I have a valid subscription for EMD Convex, so the European dataset, the Middle East. I don't have a valid one for South Africa. I have one for South Korea. So I have access to a data subscription for the mesoscale data, so I can go to my data menu here and I can start wind prospecting. If I don't have a subscription, I can still start wind prospecting, but I'll enter in a demo mode, which will only allow me to view a limited subset of the data. So let's start wind prospecting. So it's opening and checking my license status. And voila, so here we have a spatial visualization of the EMD Convex data set. So first let's have a look at the features that we are seeing here on the screen. So we have the average wind speed here visualized on top of a background map. I can change the parameter which I'm plotting here on with the buttons in the top right, so I can choose between average wind speed and wind index. I can also change zoom, and I have my legend which shows the color coding for my average wind speeds in the domain. And I can also see some details about what I'm plotting here. So in this case it's 25 meters and the time span. In the lower right I can choose the height to visualize. So let's change from 25 to 100 meters. And I can also change just below that the opacity. So I can, if I want a more transparent view, I can choose that. So this is where you can say do the basic control of the view. On the left side we have the menu points, and the first one which is open here is where you select your wind data to visualize. So in this case now you can see that I've selected the EMD Convex Europe. I can choose the other data sets. It takes a little while to process, to bring this up. And so you can toggle between the data sets here. You might also notice that there's a tab here for global data. So we also provide a visualization of the global data to you. And here already from the resolution you can actually appreciate the much higher resolution of the mesoscale data. Let's go back to EMD Convex. So let's go to the second menu point, which is called Maps. So that's where you control the background maps, and you can see we have multiple choices here. You can choose a blank or a simple map, and I personally prefer the lower option here, which is actually a terrain map. So if you zoom in far enough, you'll actually see height contours in your background map. Personally, I still find it quite difficult to navigate if you have this data superimposed. So we've also added vector layers, so you can actually superimpose a vector layer of the the coastline, which would make it much easier for you to navigate relative to the coastlines and the country borders. So the third menu point here is points of interest. And before opening that menu point, let's have a click on the map here, because we've added what we call a point diagnostics, as this small hint indicates. So you click any place on the map, and it'll open an overview of the wind resource for that particular grid point. So you see the wind rows, and the histogram, the average diurnal wind speed variation, and the average monthly wind speed variation, and the year-to-year variation in average mean wind speed. You also see the overall mean wind speed up here, and you can shift between the heights. Down here on the lower right, we can click Save Point, and we can give it a name. So we add this point to our list of points of interest. So we can close it, and we can open the menu point for points, and we can see now that we have a point here. Let's add another point by clicking here and viewing the point diagnostics. Let's save this point. Save that as well. Close. And you can see these positions are now clearly indicated on the map. Let's add a third point down here. And have a look at our menu here. So now in our point menu, we can actually sort by the average wind speed here that we have visualized, which covers the full time span of the data, and we can use that to prioritize between prospect positions. You can also simply add a list of lat longs if you have some already predefined positions. You can, if you get lost on the map, you can center on the map on a particular points of interest, and you can reopen any of your points of interest to get the point diagnostic by clicking this little arrow. The fourth menu point here is the setup, and this is where you can control how to visualize the data. You can choose the time span to visualize, and you can also customize your color legend. So I won't do that here, but you can play with that if you'd like. The next menu point is where you can export the data. And here we have a number of different export options. If you would like to have this spatial visualization as a background map in WindPro, you could choose the Surfer Grid export, and a pop-up here will explain you how to import it into a result layer in WindPro. And the file is downloaded to your downloads folder. So that's where you find it for importing it in WindPro. The last menu point here is where you can order other data sets. So you have two options here. Either you can select one of the pre-run data sets. You can see which domain they cover, and then proceed here to the checkout. So this is simply requesting a quotation from a sales department. If you don't want any of these subscriptions, you can also order a quotation for a customized data set by simply selecting this option, and you can pan to any position here on the globe, and you draw the area of your interest, select the time span that you want modeled, and the global boundary data. And then you proceed to checkout, and we will provide you a quotation with an attractive and competitive price for the area that you have selected. So this is the functionality that we've provided so far in wind prospecting, and we hope that you will appreciate the opportunity to visualize and get an overview of your mesoscale data. We would like any feedback and suggestions from you, and if you click the info here, you can see some few details about wind prospecting, and you can find contact addresses to give us any feedback and wishes that you might have. So with this, I'll conclude my part and send the word back to you, Nathan.
Thank you very much, Lasse. Okay, that concludes the presentation portion. Excuse me, that concludes the presentation portion of our webinar. 1 second here, I'm having some, there we go, I'm having some technical difficulties with my PowerPoint. But all of your questions have been received by Lasse and Morten. We're going to give them a minute to look through the questions and arrange their answers in a nice, concise format. So in that, while we give them a minute to look through the questions, I'll go over the ways in which you can contact us about either the EMD WRF mesoscale datasets or the windPROSPECTING portal. As you can see there on your screen, we have quite a bit of information on our knowledge base portion of our website. The second link there is a wiki link directly to information, a slide of which, a screenshot of which Morten had in his presentation. This webinar and the Q&A summary that will be that's associated with this webinar will be available on our knowledge base hopefully by tomorrow. To order mesoscale subscriptions or calculation credits, you can do those through the usual methods of emailing sales, calling our number you see there on the screen, or ordering online on our website. As far as access to windPROSPECTING, free access is included with all mesoscale subscriptions and custom area data sets, but we do need to point out that you must have WinPro 3.0 Service Pack 4 in order to have this. So any further questions, technical in nature or anything that's not related to the sales portion, please send an email to support@emd.dk and someone will get back to you very, very quickly. So that being said, I'm going to hand you back to Lasse to start the Q&A session. So please take it away, Lasse.
Thank you, Nathan. And thank you all for the nice questions that you've submitted. So there's a question here pertaining to the legend classes in windPROSPECTING, whether they can be adjusted to finer, larger scales when you zoom in out. And so you could say, I hope I understand this question right. So obviously the resolution which is visualized is fixed because that is actually what is used by the model. So you see the data without any interpolation. You see the grid points exactly visualized as they are. Obviously, when you zoom a lot out, you will actually not be able to identify the individual grid points, but that's what you'll see if you zoom in. And by the way, this is also the World Bank recommendation of how to visualize mesoscale data runs. So what you could say, what is modeled is what you see. But in terms of the color classes, you can customize that to exactly the you could say the narrow width that you'd like. So I hope that that answers that question. There's another question here, whether can I buy a subscription for windPROSPECTING if I'm not a WindPro user? And so that's a good question. At this point, we provide it only for our subscribers of the mesoscale data or our customers of the on-demand spatial mesoscale data. But we will later on provide it also for not WindPro users at a direct subscription. So yeah, I think with this I will pass the word on to Morten to answer some of the very good questions pertaining to our mesoscale services.
Yeah, thank you, Lasse. And I also have a few good questions here. One is what is the horizontal resolution of spatial mesoterrain dataset, and so the meso model is run with a 3 kilometer resolution. So so this is what you get there when we deliver it. Or if it's more precisely, it's 0.03 degrees. That is the spatial resolution there. So this is what you get when you download the terrain data. Another question here is regarding the correlation graphs are shown, whether it's monthly averages or instantaneous values, and I'm pleased to say that it's actually instantaneous values that I showed there. So of course, if we were to do it with monthly averages, then we would have to see much higher correlations with our data. So the last question here is about the mirror data, whether that means that that we cannot use that within WindPro anymore, and that's absolutely right. That the mirror data is provided by NASA, as we understand it, some of the satellite sources that they're using to derive the mirror data with, they are actually they are being decommissioned. So they've actually released the Mirror 2 data sets that's already available from within WindPro, freely available. So yeah, I think that completes my questions to be answered here. So back to you, Nathan.
Thank you very much, Morten and Lasse. Again, thank you for bearing with our bad voices. That is time for today's webinar, an introduction to the new EMD WRF mesoscale datasets and wind prospecting portal. When the webinar ends, a close button will pop up in your go-to interface. Please press that button and the survey will then open in your web browser. It is a very short survey that should not take them more than literally about 30 seconds of your time. You will also have the ability at the end of the survey to request a 1-week free access to any one of the pre-run data sets that's in Europe, Middle East, South Africa, South Korea, or India. I hope you've enjoyed the webinar, and please look forward to some more information from us in the next day or two, including the link to the video of this presentation and the Q&A summary. So have a good day, evening, or night, and thanks a lot for your time and attention.